Welcome to the Creative Zone.
With element rolls.
Creative Zone. Howdy there, elementals. I know it's been a long wait and I'm really sorry, but I'd like to welcome you to my first full-length YouTube video. Yay! This painting is a little bittersweet. It's been the first painting I've completed in 2 years and the first personal painting I've completed in 3 years. And it piggybacks off of some pretty personal events over the past 3 years. But I'd like to dedicate this painting to the daydreamers in my life, the people who thought anything is possible, the people who taught me that if I can learn it, I can make it. If I can think it, I can create it. And with those lessons, I create the foundation of this YouTube channel. And I hope to share all the knowledge that I've gained over the past 30 years of painting with you and maybe let you in on a few little personal stories of my own along the way. Without any further delay, I'd like to introduce you to DayDreamer. Throughout this painting, you'll see a combination of time lapses and real-time painting. I think it's very important to portray how long these things actually take and how slow the process can be when you're trying to layer and detail and truly get something realistic. A lot of my process for any of my paintings involves an insane amount of layering, which at the end of the day, you're like, why did that take so long? But the layering really allows for more depth, more realism, for more expression that you can't really get from just laying on real thick layers of paint. And all of this is acrylic. It's all acrylic. What I do is I use glazing medium and water. I know there are a few other things that you can use. They're just not in my workflow right now. I just haven't experimented with any of that yet. But as you can tell with a lot of this, it's just a lot of glazing. You know, you think the color is going to be super intense, and then you realize it's a lot watered down than you expected. And that's how a lot of this is. But that's how I build up my paintings, and that's how it takes so long. But I wouldn't change it for anything because it allows so much more emotion to be expressed through each painting that I wouldn't be able to capture without this technique. Sorry to interrupt your broadcast, but we have found footage of the beginning of this painting. Isn't that right, Element?
That's right, Element. And we don't have any footage of the clouds being made, but we do have some footage of a baseline sketch. So we're bringing that to you right now. And now we return to your regular broadcast. I know y'all didn't get to see a lot of the cloud techniques just within this little jellyfish. The little jellyfish were so challenging to do, let me tell you, because they're just so little. I think it's like they're the size of like a quarter on the head, essentially. So they're super small. Anyways, you'll see more of that technique in the second half. But again, it's more glazing. For the little ones, it was more of like just some cut paintbrushes and some little paintbrushes. But there's more of that technique later on. Anyone who knows me knows that I have a serious problem with detail brushes. I have a plethora of little teeny tiny baby brushes. And it just seems like with each painting, I'm like, no, this is not small enough. And here we are on the littlest tiny details. And I was wondering if this brush was small enough. Okay, admittedly, I took a break between this jellyfish and the next few jellyfish, which proved to be a very big mistake. And then the nightmare begins. I am not 100% what happened on this jellyfish at all, but I can tell you that there was a discovery and enlightenment that happened within this one. So, as you can see, I started painting on either side of the leg, and I soon realized that this was a huge mistake that I was making, but it took me a little while to work through it. And then one night, I just got it. And I don't know what happened, but I just took off. And it's like everything made sense. And I completely understood how jellyfish were formed, how they were put together, how they got their little curtains on their little tentacles, how everything flowed, how everything went together.
One thing that truly helped me in, getting over this hurdle of difficulty with these little jellyfish was realizing that what I am calling curtains on the tentacles are literally they're not on either side. It's not either or. It's that they are a singular entity coming from a root source and they flow to either side of the tentacle. The tentacle is the root point, but they flow onto either side. And that is the thing that really helped me crack the code on how to make these curtains on these jellyfish look as realistic as possible. I find it very important to leave learning experiences like this in videos, especially, ones with this type of length and this type of detail. It's important to know that, hey man, it's paint. You can take it off. If your other layers are dry underneath it, you can 100% take that off and it not truly affect the paint that's underneath it. Or hey, you can always put it back. It's just paint. Wipe it off while it's wet and, go back to the drawing board and reassess your technique. Make the changes that need to be made. But just remember, it's just paint, man. You can take it off, you can change it, and you can do whatever you want.
It's tutorial time with your host, Element Rose. Welcome to tutorial time with Element. This is the part of the segment where I take a moment and I show you something that I learned that I had trouble finding while I was working on my painting. So let me go ahead and show you what I learned. Something I deeply struggled with when trying to get these jellyfish together is the curtains. But before we start, I'd like to show you my original sketches. Give me one moment. Here are my original sketches. Aren't those super cool? This is where I plan out. I don't usually, I do now, but when I first started this, I didn't, back in 22, I didn't plan out a lot of my paintings before that, but now I'm emotionally addicted to it, so I can't help it. One thing I truly struggled with in trying to get all this together are the little curtains that are on these jellyfish legs. I'm going to show you this tutorial in pen, but I want to remind you that the technique is the same regardless if you use a pen, a pencil, or a paintbrush. It's all the same idea. It's all the same technique, okay? So, and it depends on if you want it to go in front or behind the perspective of the jellyfish that you're drawing. So my initial process is I start with a line, and this just indicates where my leg or tentacle is going to go. And then you just have fun, man. You just freeform it, and you freeform it. But something that's very important to note is when you get down here, it'll get smaller like this. It'll almost trail out. And sometimes it'll shift down, and sometimes it won't. It'll just go out like this. So you just have a lot of fun, do like that. And then just connect them. Just connect them because they fall over each other. They're very fluid. And don't forget these little marks that you have coming up. See, look, they're very fluid. These little marks you have coming up right here, these little folds, they're going to have little highlights on them too. So don't forget that. Those are very important. And they'll help you bring a lot more detail, okay? Like this, and like this, and like this. And that is something I deeply struggled with. I scoured the internet forever and I could not find. That was tutorial time with Element, where Element takes time in her show to show you what she needs to show you. Make sure you show her if you use this technique by tagging her and letting her know what you think about it. Show her your artwork. Show her your progress. Let her know that she helped you out. Thank you for joining us for Tutorial Time with Element. By the time I moved on to the big girls in the painting, I was pretty comfortable with a layering cloud layout and applying color. I was just really, really nervous about creating bigger curtains because I was really hoping that I could still get across detail without making it overwhelming. This painting was a major experiment, and it was a collection of other experiments I had been conducting over the past couple years. I didn't have any footage of me doing the clouds, but as you can see from here, the way that I'm doing the clouds inside the jellyfish is the exact same technique. I actually have some brushes that I've had since high school. I know, girl, hush, but I've had them since high school and I just cut the tips off of them to make them flat. And I had a couple of other flat brushes, but I also got these round sponges. You can get like the little round craft sponges, but I also have some like super huge big sponges from the bath aisle at like Walmart. The roundness of those and the porousness of the big sponges, and you'll see every now and then I'll bring up like a half of a round sponge. I don't have any idea where the other half is, but you can load multiple colors on those sponges and essentially go back and forth and not have to worry about ruining your brushes depending on the size of the area you're painting. with these transparencies. It was a lot of light layering, and when I say light, I mean most of my paint was glazing medium. I wanna talk about colors spontaneously. The pink that you see here and in 100% of the jellyfish is actually mica powder mixed into my paint. It's eye candy pigments mica powder, and I'm not sponsored, but I'm hoping one day I will maybe tag them and be like, "Hey, she really likes you guys. You should like her back." So I mixed it with some paint medium and then mixed it again with some glazing medium and lightly colored everything, put in the highlights. The transparencies ended up being my favorite part. They're a little bit tricky, but once you really get the hang of it and you stop being like, "Man, I really need to fill this in," and you start being like, "Hmm, I really like the way the background looks through this," you really start figuring out how much pressure you need to put in what place and how much color you need to put here and there. And I'm really glad I went back and put in these pinks in the shadows because it gave it a lot more depth. The next obstacle for me in this piece was trying to get the perspective correct on the larger of the two jellyfish that kind of like demand the most attention. It's surprisingly hard to find a picture of the underneath of a cloud, which was very much what I needed. I found a couple of examples. Like I said, they were far and few between. I was really nervous walking into this one, which is why I saved it for last, but it ended up being, I think, my favorite one out of all of them. And it demands so much attention. It turned out absolutely beautiful. More experimentation. I did the edges of this piece in a holographic heat transfer vinyl, something that a lot of people use for stickers and stuff like that. I just really like the way it looks. I'm really playing with iridescent and holographic at this point in my career as an artist, and I just really wanted to get like that 80s vaporwave feel for this painting because that's the vibes that it gave me, and this was the only way. Okay, I just wanted to show y'all this before I got started, so I'm fixing to have to go back in and kind of scratch it up a little bit more. It came up in a few places and it wasn't like full on attached, okay? But you can see the difference in how, come on now, how this section down here looks and how it's attached. See, if my camera will allow you, okay, how it's attached. And then you come down here and it looks completely different. It's not scratched in. It looks like it's just sitting on the surface. And that's kind of how it looked right here before I pulled it off. So I think what I'm about to have to do is just go in and like scratch everything really hard. So I'll do that off camera and then I'll come back and peel everything off and kind of do a reveal and see if it works or see if I have to redo it. So I'll see y'all in a second. Okay, just wanted to give y'all an update. I'm gonna have to accept defeat on this one and just gonna go ahead and redo it. I just put the glue on way too thick at one time, so let's just go ahead and cut to it being dry and me redoing this, okay? Okay, things I learned. You see the vision though, right? Okay, so I'm just gonna record this part and take the audio and probably redo it. But the tape was too far out. Here are notes so you can make a video sitting down later. Tape is too far out. It creates like a ridge, so it's hard to get this in here. And speed in which you rip it off is important. Don't glob on the paint. It was almost there. So instead, you see where I'm going. So instead, we're gonna take the stuff that I put on the side and we're gonna put it right here and then we're gonna show it to you. About this time, I know what you're thinking. Element, why are you cutting out so many strips? You do not need that many. Well, let me tell you, about this time, my husband stepped in and saved me. So what happened was the knife kept moving and I could not cut a straight line. Shout out to my husband for coming through and saving the day like he does on a normal basis. Make sure you have baking sheets, paper, it can be brown or white, and a towel, and then crank that iron all the way up, baby. You're gonna need it extremely hot, but you gotta have that protection there or you're gonna mess up your painting. We'll get into the final details in just a moment, but now it's time for that part of the segment called What Did We Learn? Howdy, elementals. Now it's part of the segment we like to call What Did We Learn? Where we talk about what we learned because we learned it, and it's important to know what we learned. So let's get into learning what we learned. How to draw cohesive jellyfish curtains. These boys right here. Now that was a pretty big feat because, as you know from previous discussion, we couldn't find any tutorials on how to do it right. So we made one. How to build transparencies. Now that was the biggest thing for me with this painting, was to learn how to build transparencies, because I have another painting after this that is a self-portrait that is dependent on that skill. So that's the biggest thing that we pulled from this, is how to make transparencies. Now remember, this painting was a major experiment. Holographic foil needs to be on a less textured and possibly raised surface, such as wood or something like that. So essentially what I was doing was I was creating a moat or a trench for the glue to sit in, and instead of it, sticking to the canvas, it essentially stuck to everything else around it. I also put way too much glue on it. So that's another thing that you really need to know. And note, a little bonus is make sure that you don't put too much glue. When dealing with holographic transfer vinyl, make sure you clean the area with rubbing alcohol, because if you don't, you're going to run into a lot of issues with peeling and stuff like that, like I demonstrated in the video. So make sure you learn from my lessons. Make sure you learn from my struggles. Let me provide your life lessons. And I think that's about it. So with that, we wrap up our first ever What Did We Learn? So thank you for joining me here for What Did We Learn, to go over what we learned, because we learned it and it's important to talk about what we learned. Thank you so much. Now we return to your regular broadcast, and let's see those final details. these final details, but I'd like to tell you what I'm doing. I'm putting a holographic ghost pigment from Eye Candy Pigments. It's a pink ghost mica powder, and I've mixed it in with some glazing medium, and I'm putting it on top because the way it reflects light is incredible. And right when I thought I was done, the sides, they came unstuck it from my beautiful and masterpiece. So we had to put them back on. My camera decided not to focus that entire time. Since I had had so much trouble with the sides coming off because I did not prep correctly, I went ahead and put these little corner cutouts on the corners to help protect the edges. Also, it just looks really cute on the front, and it's just a little detail I truly appreciate about this painting. Howdy there, elementals. Just wanted to jump in real quick before we get to those final, beautiful, juicy details, fluffy little cloud details. I just wanted to stop and say thank you so much for coming this far and being here with me for my first journey. I truly, truly appreciate it, and I cannot tell you how excited I am to start this part of my artistic journey and just sharing my knowledge with other people, showing off my artwork, speaking to a whole new audience. Here's to creativity and happiness and learning new things. Always make sure you're learning new things. All right, let's get into those details.
I've got something to show you.
Again, I just want to take a moment and say thank you for joining me on my first ever YouTube adventure, Elementals. And I hope there will be many, many more to come. Please let me know if there's any, I don't know, visual you'd like to see on a canvas. Maybe it'll give me an idea in the middle of my stuff. I'm really here just to like show you what's in my brain, and I just really hope you like it. So feed my brain and I'll show you more stuff. Thank you so much for being here and being a part of it, and I hope you stick around and become an elemental.